In this video, I'm going to show you some of the settings that you should toggle in Power BI Desktop to improve your report's performance and also to make the report development a bit of a pleasant experience. We're going to go through 5 of these settings, what they do, and also why you should toggle them in the first place. All of that and more. So without further ado, let's get started. Hi, my name is Fernan and welcome to the Solutions Abroad YouTube channel where we cover tips, tricks, and best practices when working with Power BI. I upload new videos every week, so make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell icon to get notified when a new one is out. So as a beginner, when you download and install Power BI Desktop for the first time, it will have some settings that have been pre-selected to make your life easier as a beginner, especially if you just want to do some simple analysis. However, when you start working with larger data sets or with more complex calculations, so you might want to start tweaking these settings to resolve issues like longer waiting times or bloated data sets and more. The first setting that you should turn off is the auto date time settings. Now you can find this from your Power BI Desktop under File, Options and Settings, Options. You can find it in 2 different places, either in the global, you'll see here Time Intelligence, Auto Date Time for new files, and also under Current File Data Loads. This is for the current file that you have open here, which is here Auto Date Time under in Time Intelligence. This setting makes it very easy for beginners to get started when it comes to visualizing their data in Time Intelligence. So it gives them the different slices for the date hierarchies like year, month, dates. This is the setting that is responsible for showing the year, month, day, date hierarchies for your date columns in your dataset. So with this setting turned on behind the scenes, Power BI actually creates a separate calendar table for every single column that you have that is a date type column. So for example, if you have 5 columns that are of date type, with this setting turned on, it means that these 5 columns have a separate hidden calendar table behind it that kind of generates these date hierarchies for you. And the range of these hidden calendars is totally dependent on the range of the dates that you have in your date column. So for example, if you have a date that goes from 1999 to 2021, that's what it will generate hidden underneath every column that has that range. Now, it's not really a big problem if you're working with small data sets and doing simple analysis, but when you start working with sort of larger data models or more columns with more date columns, your data can become bloated really easily. When you turn off this feature, you will lose the date hierarchy that you have on every single date column that you had before. You should replace this instead with a central calendar table. So working with a central calendar table is best practice when it comes to working with relational databases, not just in Power BI. And in fact, we have a separate video covering how to create your own calendar table and set it up yourself. So if you don't know how to do it yet, go check out that video. The second setting to disable is the detect column types and headers. Again, from the setting, you can find them under current file, here under type detection, and also on the global data load. You can select the never detect column types and headers for unstructured values instead. Now by default, this setting is active and it creates the change type step in Power Query every time you transform data. It's a clever automated feature that checks what type of data you have if you don't have a data type selected for it yet, and it converts them automatically. So let's say you have numbers in a specific column. This setting will automatically detect what type of data you have in that column, change it to a number type column without you having to think about it. Now the problem with this feature is that the detection uses the sample of only the first 1000 rows of your data. So let's say you have 10,000 rows of data. The first 1000 of them are numbers and then the rest is text. So when you first load this data in Power BI, it will see that the first 1000 rows is a number type column. So it will assume that it's a number type column when in fact it's not, because you have text beyond the 1000 rows, which it can't see. So this error you will only find once you hit close and load, which has happened to me a couple of times before. And also when working with Power Query, it's best practice to minimize the number of steps that you do, and having the change type step automatic means that every single time you have an unstructured column or you import some new data, it will keep creating new change type steps, which is not really that efficient. I have to keep deleting them and it becomes very annoying very quickly. The third setting is more for performance. You should increase the data cache to 16 gigabytes for your Power BI desktop. You can find this setting under the options, global data loads, and under data cache management options here under maximum allowed. So essentially when you work with Power Query, Power BI stores previews of your queries in your local disk, so Power BI doesn't have to reload the data every single time you preview them when you move through the different steps. And this is why sometimes you get this warning that the data might be old. This is because the Power BI preview is showing you the cached version of the data, not necessarily the most latest version of it. Now by default, this setting is set to 4 gigabytes. That's the size of the cache that Power BI can store in your local disk to make your life easier. Now when you work with larger data sets, the usual 4 gigabytes might not be enough to cache all of the data for preview. So this could be one of the potential reasons why sometimes when you move between steps in Power Query, it takes a long time to load. You can increase this to up to 16 gigabytes, which should help performance. Fourth setting is to disable the auto-detect relationships in your datasets. So when you import multiple tables in a Power BI reports and you want to combine these data from multiple tables into one visual in your report, you need to define the relationships between them. And if you're working with very simple data sets, the auto detection feature for your relationships works great because it finds the common denominator, the linking columns between these tables for Power BI to understand how they are related. However, when you start working with larger data sets, so you have a lot more tables or lots more columns in those tables, sometimes this auto detect feature might create relationships that you don't want. Now, having this setting turned off is definitely a personal preference. I prefer to have more control over what relationships exist between my tables, so I know the type of reaction it will do when I create some new DAX calculations. If you're interested in learning how relationships work in Power BI, I also covered it in a separate video, so check it out if you haven't yet. Lastly, you should disable this feature that allows Power BI to download data previews in the background. You can find the setting under global data load. You'll see here under background data, you should select never allow data previews to download in the background. And also for the current file under data loads, you can disable it here as well for the current file that you have. If this setting is enabled, Power BI Desktop will try to refresh data on background while you're working on Power Query, either making your experience slow or have to wait until the refreshes are complete. Now, this slowness in performance might not be prevalent when you're working with smaller datasets, but it's definitely there when you start working with multiple queries or larger datasets in general. So disabling this setting will make sure that you're only refreshing the data that you're currently working on. So if you're having issues with slow loading of your datasets during Power Query, or when you hit close and load, disabling this setting might help you out. I'm including a link to Chris Webb's blog post where he explains in detail how disabling this setting helped him wrangle a large data model with multiple CSV files and improve its performance and loading times. I'm also linking another blog post that recommends disabling this setting in general to improve performance of your Power Query and your data loads. And that's really it for this video. I hope these tips can help you out when working with Power BI Desktop to improve your data load and performance. Thanks for watching. As usual, give this video a like if you found it useful. Give it a dislike if you didn't, so I know to do better for next time. Ask your questions in the comment section box below so I can help you and you can help others. If you enjoyed this video, we have a Patreon page where you can support the channel and get exclusive perks like early access, demo files, and credits at the end of these videos. Thanks for watching again and see you in the next one. Bye.